Hey guys, it's me, Coral. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the second part of my October movie marathon wrap-up. This will be the movies that I read, the movies that I read. This will be the movies that I watched from October 6th to October 12th. And this is a couple days late, but my weekend was crazy. So I started out the week with a bang. I watched Chopping Mall, which was filmed in 1986. It was directed by Jim Wynorski, who I don't think I've watched anything else by him, I don't think. But this was, it was made in the 80s, so it felt very 80s, and it was about a group of kids who all work at this big mall, and this big shopping mall. And the mall gets this new security system, and they are robots. They're security robots. The teens stay past the mall's closing time, and that kind of triggers the security robots. And what is supposed to happen is that they just show them their employee badge, and then the robots back off. But there's some sort of malfunction due to I think like a lightning strike or something like that, of course, and that causes the robots to attack everybody. I have to say, I was really surprised by this. I don't think I hadn't heard of this. I hadn't seen like the cover at the movie store before or anything like that. You know, growing up as a kid who perused the horror section a lot. So I was really surprised that I actually loved this. It was so much fun. It had, it wasn't super plot heavy just because it was basically like a robot slasher film, but it, you know, it had that good survival element of like, we need to figure out how to get out of here, or we need to figure out how to defeat these robots. And it was a lot of fun. It had some good gore. It was perfectly cheesy. There were boobies, lots of hair, some really like douchey sports dudes. Not that sports dudes are douchey, but these sports dudes were douchey. And I don't know, it was just perfect. It was really a perfect 80s slasher film. Kind of like a different take on it because, you know, it was robots and not some guy in a mask. Some notable actors, actresses. The leading lady was Kelly Maroney, and I don't think I recognized anyone else who was in there, I don't think. Oh, just kidding. Russell Todd was in it as well. He was in a couple of the Friday the 13th movies. But yeah, that was it. I really liked it. So that is what I watched on the 6th. On the 7th, I watched something called Marrowbone. This was on Hulu, and it was released in 2017, and it was directed by Sergio G. Sanchez. And this was like a really slow-paced period piece. It takes place in the 60s, which honestly, they could have fooled me if there hadn't been like I think it's like a record they play of a song that obviously couldn't have been any older than the 60s. I would have guessed like maybe it was almost turn of the century, like at least 1940s. But it takes place in the 60s, and it's about this family. They are 4 kids and their mother, and they are from the UK, and all you know is that they've kind of fled from their father, but you don't know why. You just maybe assume that he was abusive. You can tell that they're keeping a secret, but you don't really know what it is. And it's very slow paced. There's a lot of builds up. And I thought that this was maybe a haunting movie, like a ghost movie, and that's just not the direction it took. That's not a spoiler either. I mean, you'll find that out soon enough if you watch it. And I don't know, I think it was just, it was shot really beautifully. I think it seemed like they used like all natural lighting, like lighting that occurred in this house that they were filming in, which was also like just a beautiful house. The setting was absolutely fucking gorgeous, but I don't know, I just found myself kind of bored throughout the movie, and the end reveal is kind of good. It was like a twist on a twist, kind of, which I liked, but I feel like they could have cut a big chunk of this out and I would have liked it more. It was just shy of 2 hours long, so a little lengthy, but I'm not gonna say it's bad. Worth a watch, maybe if you don't expect actual horror, because that's not really what you'll get. Some notable actors and actresses. George McKay was like the main character. Anya Taylor-Joy was in it. She was recently in Split, and she was the main character in The Witch. She was, what was her name? Thomason in The Witch. She's great. I really love her. Charlie Heaton was also in it, and he is, what's his name? He's in Stranger Things. He's Will's brother, Will's older brother. I can't remember what his name is. You guys know who I'm talking about, though. So yeah, it was a good cast, and I think the acting was well done. It was just, not really the horror movie I was expecting. And not that that would make me give it a lower rating. It was just a little too slow for me, and I like slow burns, so I think that might be saying something. What I watched on the 8th was a rewatch. I rewatched House LLC, which was released in 2015. It was directed by Stephen Cognetti. None of the actors or actresses in it were people I recognized from anything else, but I think it's more of an indie movie, so that's kind of to be expected. And like I said, this is my 3rd time watching it, I believe, and I think each time I watch it, I'm maybe a little less impressed with it, and I don't mean that it's a bad movie, because the first time I watched it, I really loved it, and I probably, if I had been rating it the first time I watched it, I probably would have given it a 5. Okay, so I should tell you the plot. So the plot of this is that it's a group of people, like friends, a group of friends. There's 5 of them, I believe, and they buy places or rent places to set up haunts for the Halloween season. So they buy or rent somehow this abandoned hotel in what seems like a pretty small town. And the hotel is rumored to be haunted. It has kind of a sordid history. And so they're setting up this haunt, and it's found footage, most of it, but there's also like interviews by people talking about this incident that happened the first night that the haunt opens. So like you're back in time as they're setting up this haunt, and then also a little bit in the future as they're kind of feeding you little bits of info about what happened leading up the incident, like what happened. I don't want to give the plot away, obviously, but it was good. There's some good scares, but I feel like after the like found footage part ends and you're more watching the incident itself, and also like a TV crew who's interviewing one of the survivors of the incident, I feel like that's where it starts to kind of like lose it. And I feel like you don't really get a good explanation of what happened, and the incident itself isn't as scary as the parts leading up to it, which is, you know, it's a disappointment. So it's really good. I really liked it the first time I watched it, like I said. So I definitely recommend it. I think it's one that you should watch, but kind of loses itself if you watch it more than once, but I don't know. The second one is not very good. Shudder recently put out a 3rd one, which I haven't watched yet. Maybe I'll get to that this month. Okay, so October 9th, I watched a movie. It was another rewatch for me. This was The Taking of Debra Logan, and this was recently put on Shudder. I think the first time I watched it must have been very soon after it came out, because it was released in 2014. directed by Adam Robitel. And I must have watched it in 2015, I think. It was on Netflix. I just remember because where I was living at the time. This is another found footage movie. I really like found footage movies. Like, I know that that's kind of an overplayed trope, especially nowadays, but you can do it so good. And this is, it's supposed to be kind of a study, I think, for a woman's psychology class, and she's met someone whose mother has the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. And so, like, that's the premise of this, is that they're documenting this woman's Alzheimer's. She's elderly, but she looks really young for her age, so I'm not quite sure how old she would be, maybe 70, maybe 75. And man, this is such a great movie. This one did hold up upon my rewatch. Even though, like, I know the end and I knew, like, the reveal and everything, like, it's still so well shot. And the actress who plays Debra Logan, her name is Jill Larson. She is phenomenal. Like, I want to become an actress only so I can, like, as I get old, like, play super creepy old women in movies. And Jill Larson is my inspiration for that. Just kidding. Like, that will never happen, but I can wish. She's so good. It very much has that feel of, like, something's wrong and I don't know what it is. And something about elderly people in horror movies really gets me. And that is, like seniors acting creepy is so good. And she just knocked it out of the park. It's such a great movie. Yeah, it's creepy, it's weird, and it definitely goes in directions that I never would have guessed. So that's not one to sleep on. Or sleep after watching. Just kidding. I don't think it will give you nightmares, but it's so good. So on the 10th, I watched a Turkish film called Baskin. This was released in 2015, and it was directed by someone named Can Evrenol. This one I felt really mixed. It took a lot of time to get anywhere. It's about a group of police officers. They are, like, patrolling one night and they get a call for, I am not sure if it's like a part of the city that they're in or if it's like a separate town, but it seems like somewhere where these guys have never really been before. They talk about, like, oh yeah, oh, has anyone been there? And the guy's like, I think I went there once when I was a kid and stuff like that. So they get there and the call is for an abandoned building. So they go in and everything just kind of goes awry. There's kind of this strange subplot where two of the officers talk about being able to see things that other people can't, or I don't know. It's like, I feel like this movie had so much potential, but like I said, it took a long time for anything to start, any sort of action to start. It just kind of like meandered and blah, 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 which I guess made it more effective when things started happening, but it just took so long. And what happens to them inside this building was crazy. And I feel like that had so much potential. Like, it reminded me of, like, Hellraiser and, like, I don't know, things that would happen in, like, Dante's Inferno. Like, it very much felt like these people were stepping into hell. And that was so good. Like, the effects and the acting of, like, the people in this torturous place were so good. And then, I don't know, it just kind of like went off the walls, and like I still don't quite know what happened or why it happened, which is a little disappointing. I think that I would definitely seek out other things directed by this director, because like I said, there was so much potential here and some things that were done super well, but I don't know. I don't know if I really understood the movie at all. if you have a night where you don't need to watch something that's like super in your face and action packed, maybe turn it on, because I think I heard about this because other people recommended it to me. So obviously some people out there like it. Not that like I totally didn't. It just didn't quite do it for me. But check it out. See if you like it. So the movie I watched on the 11th was the Banshee Chapter. This was also a rewatch for me. I rewatched a lot of movies this week. This one I also must have watched like right after it came out. I believe it was on Netflix as well. It came out in 2013. It was directed by Blair Erickson, which is the only thing that they've directed as far as I can tell. It has a couple notable actors and actresses. It has Ted Levine, obviously, who was Buffalo Bill. It has Claudia Winter, who, I don't know, she was in a couple of their movies. None that I've watched, I don't think. And then also Michael McMillian, who was in The Hills Have Eyes 2. He has kind of like a cute, like, frat boy face. Anyways, this is this is like another found footage movie, but I don't think it was supposed to be found footage, you know what I mean? Like, there's nobody with this character, she's alone, but it definitely has that like shaky, like the camera's with these people feeling. So this is about an investigative journalist. She is looking into the disappearance of her friend who disappeared, I don't know, a number of months ago, maybe years ago, I can't remember. But he was looking into MK Ultra and their use of DMT to control people's minds. And he gets his hand on a special batch of DMT that supposedly the government used on people in like the 60s. And he takes it and disappears. And there's like a video that someone with him took of his trip, and you don't really know what happens, but it's pretty freaky. So yeah, she's trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of like a weird, crazy road trip, and it's kind of an alien movie, which alien movies really fucking scare me. I think that's the only thing legitimately makes me scared when I'm watching movies, is the thought of aliens. And I attribute that to my stepmom scaring the shit out of me with some alien story that she told me when I was a kid about how she used to dream that she had aliens, an alien that would open her closet door at night and ask her to come with it. And so like I was always fucking terrified whenever we would go to her parents' house, even though as an adult I think that that's not the house that she had this dream in. But I'm very scared of aliens, and I love alien movies. So if you have any good ones that you'd like to recommend, please let me know. So this was a pretty darn good movie, and I'm not sure if you really get a good explanation. Not that I need a good explanation, but I feel like there could have been more. The end was good though. It was really doomy and gloomy, and you feel real peril for these characters. So it was good. It was good. Even upon my rewatch, I thought it was good. The last movie I watched this week was Saw 2. And actually, I watched the first one sometime this week too, but it wasn't like part of my list. So I guess I'll just package them as one for the night of the 12th. Okay, so the first Saw was released in 2004. It was directed by James Wan, who went on to do The Conjuring, Insidious, Dead Silence. But it's about these two guys who wake up in this room. They're chained to like bathroom fixtures, and eventually they're told that the only way out is to saw off their legs. And I don't know, you get into like these other crimes that this person who chained them up in there has committed, and it's always like kind of a trick to get them to hurt themselves in order to get free from entrapment. For the first movie, it's kind of boring actually. I've watched it, I don't know, probably a dozen times. This was like, it came out when I was in middle school, so this was like when I was kind of given like free reign to everything horror. I don't know, it's definitely lost its sparkle. I think the thing is that I always find the other crimes that they talk about this guy doing way more interesting than like the crime that we're stuck with for most of the movie. I ended up also watching Saw 2, which came out in 2005, and it had a different director. It was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. Again, we have Tobin Bell in it, who is Jigsaw, so he's a recurring character. There's also Shawnee Smith, who is a reoccurring character. We have Donnie Wahlberg, he plays a detective in this. So I actually like the second one a little bit more than the first one. It's about a group of people, again, in a similar situation. They're trapped in this house and they have to like be willing to hurt themselves to get out. And also like it's kind of, you know, booby trappy, like some of these things maybe you won't get out of. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That's like the plot of every Saw movie, I think. But there's like this underlying plot line of like figuring out who Jigsaw is and why he's doing what he's doing and why his helpers are helping him and stuff like that. So as far as the movies I have planned coming up, on the 13th, I plan on renting Midsummer, which I have not seen yet. I'm so excited to finally watch it. On the 14th, I plan on watching The Wailing, which is a Korean, I believe it's Korean, a Korean movie on Shudder. On the 15th, I plan on renting Crawl. I believe that's the day it comes out. The 16th, I would like to watch Behind the Mask, The Rise, I think it's called The Rise and Fall of Leslie Vernon, I think. On my list, I just wrote Behind the Mask because I know I can just type that in and then it will be there. But that's on Prime. I also plan on watching One Cut of the Dead, which is a new movie on Shudder. I also plan on rewatching Session 9. That will be a movie that I rent. And on the 19th, I'd like to watch Beyond the Gates, which I believe is on Netflix. Yeah, if you plan on watching any of those, that's where I'm going to find them, I guess. Yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week with what I watched this week. But until then, I hope you stay super spooky and I will see you later.